Now heading into the early evening news roundup with the latest stories across Scotland from Shireen Nanjiani, Sarah Haney and Scotland Today.
Tonight's top stories.
Don't panic. Experts calm bird flu fears and insist contingency plans here in Scotland are sufficient.
Under the microscope, but no public inquiry into the Scottish fingerprint service.
Farewell for a Scottish soldier. Funeral is held for the 100th serviceman to die in Iran.
And in sport, it's fame set and match for Murray as he goes all the way in San Jose.
Good evening. Scottish farmers are preparing for the arrival of bird flu. There are still no confirmed cases of the deadly H5N1 strain in the UK, but the government is advising that free-range birds will have to be moved inside should the virus arrive here.
Well, bird flu has killed 91 people since the first confirmed cases in Vietnam and Thailand just over 2 years ago. Last month there were deaths in Turkey. The non-human virus then spread to Italy and Greece, and one case has just been confirmed in France. The question now is, how long before it reaches the UK? Ronald Leask reports.
Across Scotland, this is a worrying time for people who keep birds as avian flu creeps ever closer. Vets are making sure those who keep poultry know the telltale signs of the deadly H5N1 virus.
What we'd be looking for if avian flu came in is that the head would become very swollen, you wouldn't be able to see the eyes any longer.
With the confirmation that a duck in France did die of the disease, the worry is the UK will soon have its first case. But extensive testing of British wild birds have all proved negative so far.
Since October, over 3,500 samples have been taken from wild birds across the country, both Scotland, Ireland, Wales and England, and to date, high pathogenic H5N1 has not been found.
An outbreak of avian flu here in Scotland would hit free-range farms like this particularly hard. On the continent, many countries have now banned the keeping of poultry outside, and whilst the British government say any talk of a similar ban here is premature, they want both poultry producers and the general public to be vigilant. But many free-range farmers aren't waiting for the government to order their birds indoors. Michael Williamson is making sure his farm buildings will keep his hens safely inside.
Well, at the moment, with the situation in France, we're getting very concerned about it, and we're now making contingency plans so as we can get the birds under cover into the old steading buildings.
The government are urging consumers to keep buying chicken and other meat and say they are well prepared should avian flu arrive here.
I do not want the public, and I do want poultry keepers to enter some sort of panic. I think that would be an entirely wrong approach. That's not to say that I am not taking this very seriously indeed.
Members of the public are being urged to do their bit and report any unexplained bird deaths, particularly if there is more than one. Ronald Leask, Scotland Today.
The Justice Minister Cathy Jamieson says the fingerprint service in Scotland should be subject to greater scrutiny, but has ruled out a public inquiry. She was speaking for the first time on the case of former detective Shirley McKee, who won £750,000 in damages from the executive.
It was alleged Miss McKee's fingerprint was left at a murder scene nearly a decade ago. Well, the long-running saga has cast doubt on the Scottish fingerprint service. Our reporter Mike Edwards joins us live from Glasgow. Mike.
Shireen, yes, this is one of the biggest controversies in Scotland in recent times. It began in February 1997 when Shirley McKee was a detective with Strathclyde Police. She was involved in the investigation into the murder of Kilmarnock woman Marion Ross. It was claimed that a thumbprint found in Marion Ross's house belonged to Shirley McKee. She always strenuously denied this. She lost her job and then embarked on a lengthy campaign to try to clear her name. In 1999 she was tried and cleared on charges of perjury, and thereafter hired a team of international fingerprint experts, each one of whom said there was no way that that fingerprint could have belonged to Shirley McKee. Well, earlier this month she won a major victory, settling out of court for £750,000 in damages from the Scottish Executive. Now, the whole affair has prompted calls for a public inquiry, but that is something the Executive will not sanction.
There have been inquiries into that in the past. concerted series of actions were taken as a result. I'm not against continuing to scrutinise that, and of course we are going to bring forward some further changes in the current police bill that's going through Parliament.
Justice Minister Cathy Jameson, Mike, Scotland's fingerprinting service hasn't come out of this well, has it?
No, indeed, Shireen. In fact, it has been labelled by some American experts as an international laughingstock, and one American has even gone so far as to say that the FBI intervened to try to protect the integrity of Scottish fingerprint evidence, which was being led at the Lockerbie trial at Camp Zeist 6 years ago. Shirley McKee tonight is obviously trying to put this all behind her and to get on with the rest of her life, but clearly the fallout from this affair is still being measured.
Mike, thanks for that. Well, let's speak live now to Shirley McKee's father, Ian, who's been campaigning on his daughter's behalf. Mr McKee, what do you make of the Minister's call for greater scrutiny but ruling out a public inquiry?
I find it amazing whenever openness and accountability is mentioned in this country, the Scottish Executive seem to retreat in fear. There has never been a public inquiry into the actions of the Scottish Executive. And what they're trying to do now is they're trying to concentrate on the Scottish Criminal Records Office, and what they forget is this is not an inquiry we're asking for into just the behaviour of the fingerprint experts. We want to look at the behaviour of Cathy Jameson herself and the Lord Advocate, and also, of course, questions like who murdered Marion Ross.
Do you think your daughter was sacrificed to protect the integrity of the Lockerbie investigation?
I believe that's what happened. For 9 years we've struggled to try and understand why did this happen, and I do believe that that was a part in this. I believe at the time of Shirley's trial in 1999, leading up to the Lockerbie trial, they were dead scared that anything would rock the boat, that there would be any doubt cast on forensic evidence in Scotland, and I really believe that this is behind it. This does not augur well for people like the Lord Advocate, who have consistently said it's got nothing to do with it. This is why we need a public inquiry in front of a judge. It's no sense in going to the Parliament to say a Justice Committee to look at this, because they can't look at it. We're dealing with possible criminality here, and we're talking about cover-up at the very highest echelons of Scottish Government.
Mr McKee, thank you very much for joining us. You're watching Scotland Today.
I'll stay with us because still to come on the main Scottish news. Can studying thousands of ordinary families breathe new life into our communities?
And we hear from the Scottish actor who's a rising star at the movies.